On Thursday, the Home Office announced the return of the blue British passport, to a chorus of approval from Brexiteer newspapers and politicians. The irony is that the UK could have had a blue passport while an EU member. EU member state Croatia currently has a blue passport, after all. In any case, the iconic blue passport was imposed from abroad back in 1920 thanks to the League of Nations. The EU never mandated burgundy passports, it simply produced a standard format that many member states chose to use for the sake of convenience. I imagine that the then UK government assumed that nobody cared that much about the color of passports. It's now clear that apparently trivial symbols of national identity are very meaningful for a lot of people. We'll never know whether, had the government reintroduced blue passports when complaints first arose, the expense and disruption of Brexit could have been avoided. After Brexit, we will still have to follow the ICAO standard and US demands if our passports are to be recognized abroad. Passports also make an interesting case study on sovereignty, the concept so dear to Brexiteers. Passports illustrate the limits of sovereignty in an interconnected world. As a sovereign state after Brexit, the UK will have the right to design passports in whatever way it chooses. But other states also have sovereignty, they have the sovereign right to decide which passports they accept for entry into their territory. The modern passport, since its introduction in the early 20th century, has always been a matter for negotiation between sovereign states. Transnational institutions and superpowers have often imposed requirements on supposedly sovereign states. The Eurosceptic media used to complain about the size of British passports. The burgundy passports issued in the past few decades were smaller than the old blue ones. They have gone quiet about this recently, perhaps because they know that this isn't something the UK can change after Brexit. Passport size, along with several other features, is mandated by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, an agency of the UN. Today's passports are machine-readable, and an international standard is required so that all passports will fit the machines used in airports. Most of the recent changes to British passports have been driven by the US rather than the EU. The US requires certain passport features for participation in its visa waiver program, which allows citizens of most developed countries to enter the US for business or recreation trips of up to 90 days without a visa. The US demands compliance with ICAO standard, but it also imposes more stringent photo requirements and biometric features. The new US requirements have been imposed on the UK via the EU. The US informed the EU of its demands, and the EU then incorporated them into its own passport standards. But the UK would only be able to escape these requirements after Brexit by giving up visa-free travel to the US.